Australia is one of the world's largest gas exporters, but its plans to expand its gas production and export are facing increasing scrutiny and criticism from both domestic and international observers. In this section, we will examine how Australia is trying to fool the world with its sustainable gas expansion plan, despite the global climate crisis and its own commitments to reduce emissions. Australia has several major gas projects that are yet to begin production and are scheduled to run until after 2050. These include Woodside's $16 billion Scarborough project in Western Australia, Origin Energy's plan to start extraction in the Northern Territory's Beetaloo Basin, and Santos Greenfield gas development at Narrabri in New South Wales. These projects are expected to increase Australia's gas output by more than 40% by 2030, making it the world's largest LNG exporter. However, these projects are also likely to increase Australia's greenhouse gas emissions significantly, as extracting, transporting and burning gas releases carbon dioxide and methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas. According to the Investor Group on Climate Change, a body that represents major institutional investors that manage more than $33 trillion in global assets, these projects are likely to struggle financially after 2030 if the world lives up to commitments to combat the climate crisis and limit global heating to 1.5 degrees Celsius, as agreed under last year's Glasgow Climate Pact. The Investor Group on Climate Change warns that new gas developments face a range of complex and interconnected risks, such as declining demand, lower prices, regulatory uncertainty, and reputational damage. It suggests that investors are likely to be cautious about supporting further capital expenditure, particularly for projects that are scheduled to run past the 2040s and face a higher risk of becoming stranded assets. Australia's gas expansion plan is also inconsistent with its own climate targets and international obligations. Australia has pledged to reduce its emissions by 26 to 28% by 2030 compared with 2005 levels, and by net zero by 2050. However, its current policies and projections suggest that it will fall short of these goals, as its emissions are expected to rise by 6% by 2030. Australia has also signed up to the Glasgow Climate Pact, which calls for phasing out coal and inefficient fossil fuel subsidies, and accelerating the transition to renewable energy. Australia's government has tried to justify its gas expansion plan by claiming that gas is a transition fuel that can help reduce emissions by replacing coal in power generation and industry. It has also argued that gas exports can help other countries reduce their emissions by displacing coal. However, these claims are not supported by evidence or science. Studies have shown that gas is not a low-carbon fuel, as it has significant life cycle emissions from extraction, processing, transportation and combustion. Moreover, gas does not necessarily displace coal in other countries, but may instead compete with renewable energy sources or increase overall energy demand. Therefore, Australia's gas expansion plan is not only risky and costly for its economy and environment, but also misleading and deceptive for the world. It undermines global efforts to tackle the climate crisis and achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement and the Glasgow Climate Pact. It also exposes Australia to growing criticism and pressure from its trading partners and allies, who are increasingly demanding more ambitious and credible climate action from one of the world's biggest fossil fuel exporters.